After 7 years of training on a rigid trainer setup indoors, I decided to purchase a rocker plate, the Realplate React. And let me tell you, it changed my entire training routine. I've been training on Zwift since early 2018, some years netting over 6,000 miles. This consisted of long rides, structured workouts, races, and just about whatever else Zwift could throw at me. Though my dad and we made our own rocker boards, I never rode it consistently, and that's a whole nother story. For years, I never had any issues relating to a rigid setup, apart from some minor saddle pressures, numbness, and hot spots. Then, a few weeks before the Zwift Community Live event, I re-raced Stage 5 of Zwift Games via the ZG25 Queen route. This is one of those races where everything was clicking, and I finished the event with a difficult standing effort that lasted a few minutes. I was beyond stoked because this felt like a true breakthrough until the next day, where I began suffering from outer knee soreness like I've never experienced. As a result, I stopped training completely and promptly scheduled a bike fitting in hopes of saving my trip to Majorca. The fitting went well and even identified other issues such as my legs being too different length. Though upon regaling the races to the bike fitter, they explained that rigid trainers force your body to absorb loads and tension you'd never experience outdoors. And then suddenly, the knee issue made perfect sense. Months ended up going by and the knee issue luckily disappeared, but the advice that I received never truly left my mind. On top of all of this, our friend Adam, Mr. Road to A, would constantly gush about their rocker plate and how it added additional comfort and helped with longer training sessions. So in August of 2025, I decided, it's time to make a change, and the Realplate React was the logical next step for me. I also took a look at a few other rocker boards, but the combination of build quality, side-to-side +4 aft motion, and the Realplate's track record made it the clear pick. Upon receiving the product, all of the above proved true. The construction was solid, range of motion smooth, balance extremely customizable, and the mounting, while a bit tricky for perfectionists, proved easy enough. There was a slight issue with a loose screw in the packaging that slightly bruised the edge of the board, but Steve at TurboRocks was quick to communicate with me about the issue to ensure there was no real damage, and even sent me a couple of extra inflatable balls when I accidentally broke mine when adjusting the air pressure. Truly a wonderful experience, and everything seemed great. When it came to my maiden voyage, I made the insane choice of my first ride being an exert workout. I struggled a lot, but at the time I was thinking this is more an exert problem rather than me. My overconfidence, it quickly became apparent a few days later. Adam and we decided to race a stage out of the Tour de Hisp series on the Mayan Mash route. Like any mass start race, things started out hot and heavy, but I could tell that something fell off once the gradient started to kick up. I had to work extremely hard to stay with the group, and after a connection issue, everything unraveled. I felt like I was pedaling in mud. I could not stand and pedal, a style I absolutely loved. In short, my power had disappeared, and because I was so dialed in with my training, it was obvious that the rocker plate was the culprit, at least how I was riding it. So like any Zwifter, I took to Zwift Insider where I found an article called "Do Rocker Plates Encourage Poor or Opposite Form?" The short answer is yes, which meant that in a way I had to relearn how to ride my bike indoors. Indoor riders don't realize how much they brace against the trainer instead of letting the bike move. As I explained in this clip, instead of pushing the bike into the trainer like I used to, I had to relearn to let the bike move under me the way it does outdoors.
So what I'm really trying to do is the trainer, you're always pushing down with the pedal and down, which you can't do on a rocker board or outside. So I'm trying to retrain myself to be more like this. So you're pushing and coming across.
And so began the long, ugly process of unlearning 7 years of forcing your weight down into the pedals. As someone that is very familiar with learning the mechanics of an efficient baseball swing or pitching windup, I knew the best option was to begin overemphasizing the correct form. So I took the Tempest Fugit and got to work, literally almost going knee to elbow until I was finally able to sway the bike in the correct direction each pedal stroke. This allowed me to be somewhat prepared for my first race with the correct form, but as you can see, I'm still struggling quite a bit. I also found sprinting to be much more natural in the drops, which I practiced with the pace partner as well. After 3 more days of testing, the next challenge began with Adam's sub 50 Alp attempt. This long, brutal effort, and while painful, because, well, it's the Alp, it gave me hope that there's light at the end of the tunnel, because this was the first time that I hit a power PB since I started using the rocker plate. Once the adaptation phase ended, the benefits didn't just show up, they compounded. It still took a couple of weeks, even after overinflating the rocker, to really start feeling comfortable on the board and begin appreciating the benefits of 1, my legs and joints being much less sore after each strenuous activity, and 2, being able to comfortably sit on the saddle longer, even in an aero position. There were even a few benefits that I was not expecting, such as riding feeling far more engaging and having an easier time holding a higher cadence. Though even today, I still struggle to hold long standing efforts, and quite frankly, I only started feeling truly locked in my power transfer these past few weeks. To me, the answer is no. I've had 0 injury scares, knock on wood, since switching to the rocker plate, and we've rode some really intense series these past few weeks. Additionally, my power numbers are at an all-time high because we've been able to train consistently and for a long amount of time in those sessions. Which leads me to my advice if you're considering a rocker plate. I'm going to break it down into a few sections. If you're like me, a competitive rider that's only ever known a rigid training setup, you need to think long and hard about whether you're willing to let your power numbers decrease while learning how to properly ride the rocker board. I promise you, it's going to take at least a few weeks to lock in, followed by a few months of slow adaptations as well. You must be willing to put in the work, otherwise you're going to become frustrated, ditch the rocker board altogether, and it's going to be a waste of your hard-earned money. Also, a nice tip is to embark on this journey when you're willing to lose some power, perhaps in the Zwift off season. Also, for all you social riders out there, the loss of 25% of your power might not be as important to you, so it's less of an issue. Though, just like the competitive riders, you need to actually put in the work of learning how to ride with the proper form. Most importantly, if you're somebody that's just getting started with Zwift, think about investing in or building your rocker plate early in your Zwift journey. This will ensure that you only know the correct riding form, making your transition much smoother than anyone that spent a lot of hours on a rigid training setup. There's a reason why many elite riders skip the rocker plate. When every watt matters, the absolute stiffness of a rigid setup gives them the most direct power transfer. Not to say it can't be comparable, it's just a little bit more difficult. All in all, 7 years rigid, around 6 months on the Realplate React, and I'm not going back.